I'm proud to introduce Jim Martin, who's been a leader on this issue for so many years, who where'd Jim go? First dug out this as a temporary tax, established 4 times to pay for defense purposes, has just been a champion of this issue, and I appreciate so much. I think you represent over 7 million seniors in America, and this is so critical to them. So, Jim, welcome.
You know, thanks to these forward-looking legislators, we're on the verge of repealing a temporary tax imposed to help finance World War I. Yes, it was a temporary tax on the wealthy, 4 times imposed for defense purposes. It was repealed quickly after hostilities ended the first 3 times. But quite frankly, let me give you the dates. 1797, repealed in 1802. 1862, repealed in 1870. 1898, repealed in 1902. 1916, repealed, 2015, still not repealed. Sole survivor, as Congressman Brady says, if you will, the sole survivor from World War I. And look, some of those who favor keeping it, they say it's a tax cut for the wealthy. Please, that horse is dead. Dismount. The wealthy set up trust and foundations. They spend an inordinate amount of money to do that. It impacts new businesses, minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses. They're hurt the most by it. It impacts farmers who are land rich and cash poor. It impacts peanut farmers in Plains, Georgia. Absolutely. And their hero, Congressman Bishop, has been a fierce advocate for repeal for more than a dozen years, working with Jennifer Dunn back 12 years ago. We might ought to name this after Mrs. Dunn when it's repealed. I say when, not if, but when it's repealed. And by the way, it did pass the House by 100 votes back 10 years ago. 40 Democrats voted, led by Congressman Bishop and others. It fell by 2 or 3 votes in the Senate. It cuts across philosophical lines. I testified on this bill about 10 years ago. Another who testified was the University of Southern California professor Edward McCaffrey. He had some startling words to say. He said, "I'm an unrequited liberal who used to believe in this tax until economic studies convinced me that if you leave the money intact with the heirs, good things will occur. They'll invest in existing businesses or startup businesses, resulting in more workers. What do workers do? They pay taxes." And so this liberal professor said, he even said, we liberals, this is a tax we liberals should love to hate. Imagine that. I get credit for naming it the death tax. Clearly, though, Ronald Reagan called it that years ago, as did many others. But it's true, my organization has helped move repeal from one goal line to the other, starting back in 1992 when Chris Cox had less than 2 dozen sponsors. He had only one Democrat then, Nick Rahall of West Virginia. He had no Senate sponsors until Congressman John Kyle won his Senate seat in Arizona. I campaigned with him out in Arizona. True to his word, when he got elected in 1995, he introduced the first repeal bill there, and with only one sponsor. Today's leaders, of course, Senator Thune and Congressman Brady, and we thank you for that. Let me give you a couple other weird names for this thing. We call it the Grim Reaper's tax, an exit tax, a departure tax, if you will. And one of my favorites, the stiffest tax of all. But on a somber note, it's a cruel tax. Grieving over the loss of a loved one while you're dealing with the IRS. And just think of this, the first claimant in line. Old Uncle Sam, not even a blood relative, waiting with outstretched hand. Again, I can't tell you how much we despise this particular tax. Benjamin Franklin said there are 2 certainties in life, death and taxes. Because of the estate tax, there's a third certainty, taxes after death. We give the Benjamin Franklin Award to members like these who vote to make his statement true again, only 2 certainties, not 3. Look, I came to Washington in 1962 as a newspaper reporter. John Fitzgerald Kennedy was in the White House. Neil Armstrong had not yet walked on the moon. Heck, Strom Thurmond was still a Democrat. In fact, he was the junior senator from South Carolina. That's how long I've been around here. Let me tell you this. I've witnessed a lot of history. I've seen a lot of taxes come. I've not seen very many taxes go. Clearly, it's way past time this temporary tax was permanently gone for a fourth and final time. I see my time is up. I thank you most sincerely for yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.